Microsoft Excel, Chapter 5, pages 274 through 277. Starting on 274, to add fields to the pivot table. In the pivot table field list, that's right here, pivot table field list, click the location checkbox right there. Did you see it jump in over here? The location field is added to the row labels box, and the unique values in the location field, courtyard, east pavilion, garden, south pavilion, and west pavilion, appear in the pivot table. Top of page 275, step number 2. In the pivot table field list, click the appraised value checkbox. The sum of appraised values buttons appears in the values box. The pivot table groups the items from the art object table by location and calculates the total appraised value for each location. The grand total appears at the bottom of the pivot table. Rename the worksheet as appraised value summary. Remember that to rename a worksheet, you just come down here and double click it and type in the new name. And press your enter key. Reach up and click save. Alright, to add the category and condition fields to the pivot table. In the pivot table field list, click the category checkbox. The category field appears in the row labels box below the location field. And the unique items in the category field are indented below each location field item in the pivot table. Step number 2. In the pivot table field list, click the condition checkbox. The condition field appears in the row labels box below the category field, and its unique items are indented below the location and the category fields already in the pivot table. Turn to page 276, Applying Pivot Table Styles. To apply a pivot table style in the pivot table report, number 1, make sure the active cell is in the pivot table. And then click the Pivot Table Tools Design tab on the ribbon. In the Pivot Table Styles group, click the More button, which opens the Pivot Table Styles gallery. Step number 3. Move the pointer over each style to see the live preview of the pivot table report with that style. Number 4. Click the Pivot Style Dark 4 style, the 4th style in the dark section. Here's the dark section. And that's it right there, Pivot Style Dark 4. Go ahead and click it. Formatting Pivot Table Values fields. The top of page 277. Number 1. Click any cell in the Sum of Appraised Values column. Alright, so Sum of Appraised Values column, and you can click in any cell. Click the Pivot Table Tools Option tab on the ribbon. And then click the Field Settings button in the Active Field group. So here's the Active Field group, and we want to click on the Field Settings button right there. Alright, the Value Field Settings dialog box opens. Step number 3, click the Number Format button. It's down here in the lower left-hand corner, Number Format. That opens the Format Cells dialog box. Now this should look very familiar to you because we've certainly used it before. Step number 4, click Currency in the list of categories. Type 0 in the decimal places. Decimal places is at 2. You can either type it or use your spinner box and take it down to 0. Step 5. Click the OK button. The numbers in the pivot table will be formatted as currency with no decimal places. Step number 6. In the custom name box, replace sum of appraisal value with total appraised values. Click the OK button. The Value Field Settings dialog box closes, and the name used to describe the calculations in the pivot table report is changed to the custom name you entered. Right there, total appraised values. Reach up and click Save, and you're ready to move on to your next video.